Welcome back to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin Sambois.
Welcome back. Another exciting, informative episode as always. I'm really excited just to be able to have a check-in. I think I was telling Maylin right before we started to record that there's just so much happening right now. So much happening. And I think oftentimes, when we just kind of get in I almost want to call it the routine of everyday life. You don't really stop to pause to acknowledge or even do an inventory of like, what do you need? What am I missing? Because you're just like in this go. And like today, when we were on our call this morning, we were talking to our team. So for those of you who don't know and you're listening, the organization Maylin and I co-founded 9 years ago, officially. Really like 12 years.
I mean, really want to add the works before it became official.
Right. 9 years ago. We just opened our first, center last Thursday. Yeah. So by the time you hear this, it'll be like a couple of months or something like that. I don't know, something like that. But, this has been a 12-year journey, 9 years officially as a 501c3. And it was always a vision, like one day, if it was God's plan, that we would be able to take the work that we were doing with Femergy and really create a space. And we always knew we wanted it to be a center. Like it was never like...
never a question.
Yeah. It was never a question of like what. It was just a question as to when. And even during the pandemic with all the uncertainty that the world was facing, we knew then, I think that was really a testament to us that it was like, okay, even though this is like super scary and we don't really know how to navigate this, because you talk about like so many things drying up, especially those of you who are in fact entrepreneurs, many people, went through a lot of different hardships and still are. Like, we're still not in a space that everybody is doing okay, but some people did okay. And some people were able to go through the pandemic and, they elevated, and that's okay. And I think we should have a place in our hearts not to be bitter about that. Yeah. Like some people are like always salty about like other people's growth. And I'm like, you shouldn't be salty. Like, I think everybody has their time. And, so during the pandemic, I just remember being like, oh my God, like what's going to happen? How are we going to provide programs and services for, our community? And we're on Zoom, and although it wasn't like authentically how our programming was designed, like we were able to still figure it out. And so like last year, I think it was last year, we picked the conversation back up about what, a place could look like for Femergy and what kind of place we wanted. Now, I am the type of person, I always have very elevated ideas about...
You're visionary. Let's just tell the people who you are. You're an amazing visionary.
I try to be and I'm working on being a little more realistic sometimes.
Don't change.
I'm always like...
That's why I'm here. Don't change.
I took Maylin to this big building. I think it was our first time really going out to look at spaces. And of course, I picked the biggest building that was like so expensive.
I should think of the rent and I have a heart attack.
And she was like, how much is this? And I was like, da 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 da. And she's like, I don't really know how that's going to happen. Right. But it was.
I didn't say no.
Yeah. She didn't say no. She's always like, okay, we have to figure it out. But I think it kind of like,
it was a catalyst.
Yeah, it was. It really pushed us to start thinking about like, what do we need? And it's not about necessarily like ideally what we want, but what do we need? And so when we found the current Femergy Center...
Well, tell them about the one before that, because we were almost...
There was another one too that I really felt good about, but it actually was weird because I liked it, but I also had a reservation. And I think this is something that is important for us to understand or unpack, is that when you feel like something is not 100% in alignment, or something about a situation or a deal just feels a little bit off. Uneasy. Like lean into that, because there was another building that we liked and I saw a lot of opportunity and potential there, but I had concerns with where it was located and I just felt like it was too far. Like it was too far away. But although I was in my mind, I'm like, we'll make it work. Like we can make a shake. It'll be great. We can do this. And it was going to be pretty much a complete build out. Like everything pretty much needed to be gutted and redone. But we knew that we could make it our own. And I wasn't, we were like excited about it. Needless to say, we didn't get it.
They weren't as excited as we were. The landlords there changed their mind, right?
Yeah. So it was, and it's funny when the realtor called, she was like, I don't know what the problem is. And I told her, I was like, it just wasn't this place for us. It wasn't for us. And if we would have, we could have probably came back and offered something else or did something else, but it was like, nah, it's not the place. And I low key felt like I wanted it, but I had concerns about the location. Even with the build out, I'm like, man, we don't really got the money for a build out. We don't really even knowing what we had to do here and if there was no build out required, it was already like an investment. So I'm like, what was I thinking? Thinking I could get a whole building like that. And I would still be in construction right now as we speak. And so when we found this place, like the moment I didn't even walk in very far. Like it was I probably went into 2 rooms and I told the agent, I was like, I whispered it to her because the seller's agent was also there. And I was like, this is the spot. She was like, but we haven't seen the whole building. I was like, I already know. Like, just what do we have to do? And so, so I say all that to say it was just like, we knew, and some people now they're like, oh, you guys, I'm like, but this has been 12 years.
Yeah, like it's not like a sudden success, like you just overnight. I think a lot of people get that confused, right? And we see that in social media. We're like, wow, look at them overnight. I'm like, no, there was 20 years behind that. There's 10 years of hard work and tears and blood that we didn't get to see. We just see another success. So when people see us in the news, because we had a news article being done on
that was the first time we were on the news.
Oh, well, there you go.
That was the first feature.
Oh my God, in 10 years?
In 12 years with all the work we have done that we have ever been featured on the news.
Yeah. I mean, even just pause.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, so monumental, right? But that was the same day we opened. So we're like, yes, we're doing this. We're doing an interview.
Right.
That was huge. I think that was huge for people to know who we are. And then again, people will see this in the news. And our thing is, don't look at that and assume that this was like easy or it was overnight. This was years in the making. So a lot of people are in a journey where we were. They're like, why is this not happening fast enough? Like so many times we thought, like, what's happening? What are we doing? What are we not doing right? What is going on? And it's God's timing. Like when it's the timing is going to happen. Because in our November board meeting, I remember we didn't have a building and we were telling our board, like, we still have time, guys. It's not over. The year is not over. And literally in our December meeting, we're like, we have a building, right? It was that faith that kept us true and got us the building to our goal. Our goal day was the end of 2022.
Yeah. We signed and got the keys December 1st.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to your point, it's just, so whatever, like we say that to say like whatever you're working on or, whatever your ultimate dream is. And if you feel like it's not happening fast enough or you feel like you're
behind,
get centered, get rooted in understanding that, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen on your timing. But you have to be centered in the process. And so I think it was clear to us that we knew it would happen one day. And we knew that if it was, the right place, the right plan, that it would come together. And that's exactly what happened with this place. And we absolutely love it. Like I think it's more than we ever really could have imagined. And it's an opportunity for us to start thinking about additional ways that we can support and help grow other girls and women, and even just partnerships within this city. I think it's important that, you look at your business or just your why or what you feel your purpose is, and really navigating like, how do you want to show up? How do you want to impact, whether it's your household or your workforce or your family or your community as a whole? Like, it's important that, you know what that is, because on days that it gets hard or you feel like you're not where you should be, or you see all these other people opening businesses or buying cars or getting married, because, there's also the personal aspect, right? That's probably why I don't really post too much about my husband or my kids or any of that, because I know that kind of energy too, like, I know there are people that are genuinely happy, but I also don't want to convey like oh, this is my life every single day.
This is my perfect life.
Yeah, like I mean,
nothing
is perfect. I mean, I had a really cute picture with Kent that we took at the grand opening, and I haven't posted it yet.
Why?
I don't know, because I'm still debating. I'm like,
you guys look so cute.
We did look cute in that picture.
Please post it. Help the world have some hope.
but that's my exact point. I think it's like, you know, a picture does not always really give people the insight as to what it really takes to be in a relationship or have a marriage. Like,
you've done I think we've done a good job in our podcast. If you have missed some episodes, this is your call out to come and check out some of those, because we have shared your journey a little bit, right? It's not like it's not an overnight.
Yeah.
So getting to this point hasn't been, 100% easy, but it takes work. Like a job, like a business, a relationship takes a lot of work. And you posting a photo of you guys, where you are now and celebrating that big day doesn't mean, I think people are going to take it where they're going to take it.
Yeah.
And that's when we're like, well, we don't care.
Yeah.
I'll be like Shakira, like.
Sometimes I just don't want the energy. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think I'm a very private person off rip anyway. So most of the time people are like, how many kids you got? And I'm like, I got 3 kids.
Yes. And God bless. I can't even I'm not even going to talk about that, because that alone to me, forget everything else we have done professionally. Just the fact that you're a mom of 3 and you not just survive, you have thrive and you accomplished so much in our years. Like, I wake up every day like Christina did it. I don't know how you even question anything, because she had 3 and she did it. Yeah. And that's my motivator to like get up, because I'm like, there's no way. I admire you beyond words. There's just, I don't know. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Tell me sorry.
All the work I made you do. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Okay, I just strapped into my chest and I walked out the house. But I think motherhood, honestly, is probably one of the hardest positions in life,
and so underrated.
It's so underrated. Like Mother's Day, I think even as mothers, because people don't really fully understand like what the day-to-day goes into that, especially if you are very hands-on, like, you're, really in the grit of motherhood every single day, on top of being expected to work, be a wife, be a girlfriend, be a, whatever, be a daughter, be
even if you don't
sister.
have all those things and you're just a mother, period, that's alone, like that should be alone the whole thing. If you add anything on top of that, is like, I feel like we're expecting so much from women at a point, like when they're not even physically, sometimes they're just mentally not over what just happened.
Right. It's so crazy because it's like, once you think you got like a system going,
right, you're like, yes,
your kids switch up on you or something changes and you're like, what?
That no longer works, what?
Yeah, it's too much. And so, I mean, parenthood is
that's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. But you know what? I always tell people that when they ask me, like, it's interesting how people are quick to go to your like professional accolades and they're like, oh, you're a leader of this and you're on this and you're on that. And it's like, listen, like, to me, the only title that's ever mattered to me at the end of all of this would be if my kids thought I was something. Like, like if they, because what is it to be all these things for your community, your spouse, your whomever, and your kids were like, oh, my mother was horrible. Yeah. She was gone all the time.
I think even your spouse counts in that. They should.
Yeah, they do some weeks. I mean, their opinion matters, but to me, it's like with your spouse, you get to choose your spouse. So it's like you chose, and they chose you. Exactly. Yeah. So not to say that there's not give and take in that, because I don't want to ever take that for granted either. I know I'm a lot, and I know there's a certain kind of expectation that I have, but I also feel like as partners, we got to choose each other. So if it's not something you feel like is right for you, then that's something you can walk away and say, you know what, I gave this my best shot. We're just not compatible for X, Y, and Z. And you could walk away from me, or I could walk away from you. But as your mother, they didn't ask for this. They didn't get to choose me. There wasn't a brochure. And I was like, I'll take her. She looks nice.
I feel like I was chosen. I thought we were chosen. I feel like we were.
Yeah, so it's a little different. Like they get here and they're like, so you going to feed me? You going to take care of me? And so it's, that is a relationship that to me, like they didn't get to choose. And so it's kind of like, and regardless if whoever walks away from you, I'm still responsible for these 3 kids. And I'm grateful because, you know, my kids have solid fathers. Like that's not an issue. But at the end of the day, if they decided today, listen, I'm done parenting, I still would have to be their mother. And that to me is important because that's one job that, like I said, you can't, like nobody else can be their mother. I mean, they could, there's so many great step parents out there, like so many great co-parenting situations,
parents, grandparents,
so I'm not taking away from any of those relationships. It's more of just like this is something you can't just create leverage for. I mean, it's something that you have to be present to the best of your ability because we're all managing so many things. But that is something that at the end of the day, you know, I don't want to build businesses and make all this money and then lose at having any kind of real relationship with my children. And some days I win at that. Some days I lose at that. And we've talked about that in prior episodes. I always know when I'm winning at work because my house is a mess. I haven't checked Adrian's homework in a few days. But then it's vice versa. I know when, you know, I'm really at the house is clean. It's smelling like Fabuloso.
The kids have A's.
Everything. Everybody's smiling. Like I'm going on vacation next week and I'm like, the emails I'm going to have when I get back.
But that's why we have that out of office thing.
Yeah. So it's just, you know, it's the balance. There's not a real one. I just think you just have to figure out what works for you in that moment. And whatever you're doing in that moment, just give it your all. If you're at work, give it your all. If you're at home, give it your all. Because then eventually you'll go back to work. You'll go back to your family. So just don't stress yourself on trying to do too many things at one time. We're not robots.
No, and it's like, I think the word I heard once was harmony. Like there's no balance.
Right.
Because you cannot do it all, but you can do it at certain times. So like you said, right? So maybe, I mean, I know time blocking is important. All of those things are great. I think just know that some days you will be really good at getting your checklist done and some days you won't. And I think having grace in the process, I always ask myself, like, okay, something happens to me, God forbid. The world's going to have to figure it out. So let me have some grace and still work with that. But just have grace on yourself because you can't do it all. And it takes time and get help if you need it. That's my advice.
Yeah. And so even like what you were saying, I was talking to you about this the other day, just about like, as we are growing and moving into new seasons of our life, whether it be professionally or personally, like really kind of taking an opportunity to just do like an inventory check of yourself. Like, how are you feeling about this growth? How are you feeling in regards to like how other people are treating you in that growth? Because I think we've talked so much about like getting to the table or excelling or being able, whatever our goals are. But then we don't talk enough about what do we do when we get there.
Right. And it's not enough to just get there anymore.
Right. No. And I think a lot of people are starting to see that. Like some aren't, but that's important to like remind them. It's just like if you see people that are growing and you see people that are working really, really hard, like how are you supporting them? Like whether it be just even saying a prayer for them or when you see them just saying hello.
Are you being kind to them? Remember your post the other day, let me tell you guys, this is how I know something is up. If you see a post or a story from Christina, she don't post a lot because it's private. And I'm like, my instant thing is like, so what is this about? She does the same to me. So we like watch her stories because sometimes we don't get to talk. We're so busy. So if I watch something that she posts, I'm like, okay, so tell me more about this being kind to people when you get elevated and you get to tables.
Yeah. So I won't say what exactly happened, but I'll give you like an idea of kind of what I'm talking about. So I think, you know, there's always been like, you know, and think about like even in your social circles, whether it be in, you know, work or places, like there's always like kind of pockets of people that you're like, it's not really, you know, like not the energy that I, you know, prefer to be around.
The energy is not giving.
Yeah, the energy is not giving. And I often like try to avoid those groups at all possible. But like there's some instances where you simply can't. Like you're at the same event or you're at the same workshop or what have you. And you're just kind of forced to be in those same spaces. You know, in years past, like oftentimes I would allow kind of little subliminal statements or body language or demeanors.
Microaggressions.
Yeah, microaggressions for sure to happen. And I would just kind of, you know, not say anything. And, you know, because even though I'm very like, assertive. I also try to be like non-confrontational if I can avoid it at all. Because to me, it's like, I'm not even going to give you the energy because I know that's what you want. So technically, I'm not doing it. But it's just interesting. Like the more that, you grow and the more that we have grown, there are a lot of people who have truly just been amazing support of that process.
Thank you.
Yeah. But then there's others who are just like, they still want to act as if like,
they're just disrespectful.
Yeah, just real disrespectful. And it's just like, and I found myself in that situation and I don't know where it came from, but I just, respectfully, because I'm always gonna be respectful. And I just let this person know that like their behavior was unacceptable. And, it's to a point now where it's like, you may not like me, but you are going to respect me and you should respect everybody. Like it's not just a me thing. It should just be like a humankind thing. It's the right thing to do, whether we are friends or any of the above. It's just respect. And I think that some people have, forgotten that at the end of the day, people are, they're human and they deserve to be respected regardless of what they contribute to your life and directly or indirectly. And you have to find your voice and start stepping up and speaking up for yourself, because also like it can help somebody else because, these people continue to just kind of go around and they treat others like this. And I don't know how many times people have been like, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing that. And they're not going to like it. I mean, right. I knew instantly.
It was not accepted.
It was not humbly accepted. But that's okay. And I think that that's important that, it's okay to take up space now, but like Maylin said earlier, it can't just be for you to have a seat at the table. You have to be able to use your voice to elevate others and to do things that maybe are a little like nerve-wracking for you, but that's okay. And, if you find yourself in this new season of life that you've worked so hard for, or you see other people who are in new seasons of their life that, they've worked so hard for, it's okay to start, finding your voice again, finding how you advocate for yourself and others, because at the end of the day, you have to train people on how to treat you. And that could be in business, who you date in, who you hang around, your friendships. It's like at the end of the day, you have to have an expectation of yourself, and you should also have an expectation of how you treat others.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that's the only way they're gonna learn. And I think as you're elevating, also think about those that can come with you. Who can you bring? Right? Like I think one of the things we pride ourselves in is helping others. Like we don't have secrets. So if there's something that we know and you ask, we'll help you. Or other people are not so knowledge sharing. And I think it's a mentality we talked about before of a scarcity. Like there's enough for everyone. And I truly hope women, and I know every gender I think men somehow help each other sometimes a little bit more than women do. I think for women, we only feel like if only one woman's at the table, one Latina's at the table, that's enough Latinas. And it's like, it's not.
Right.
We need more of all of us at the tables. And then opening, like if you've been there for a while, like open the door for this person to speak. Right. So like you've been brand new in a lot of new places lately.
Yeah.
And you have to almost like push yourself in a way for people to understand that, yes, I'm new, but I have, credibility. I have things to say. I have history in the community, but that many other people at the table with you don't.
Right.
That they only have like this office, knowledge. They don't have the ground roots that we're doing all the groundwork.
Yeah.
So how do you overcome that feeling? For people that are finding themselves right now in that table, they're new and they're like, I'm afraid to say something. I see it in some meetings we have. And sometimes I'm like, hey, do you want to share something? Right. So that person that looks so shy, how are you overcoming or have overcome that feeling of I'm brand new, all this older, non-diverse people are here in this room. How do you speak your voice? How do you use it in those rooms?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were asking our listeners.
No, I'm asking. I mean, them too, but you.
I think that's something that every day I'm still learning. Like it's situational. I think for me, like there have been situations, like there was one last month where a lady did come at me a little sideways. And I just said, I didn't say anything. but then later I was so like, like I
should have said.
But it was like, it wasn't even that I should have said anything like equally disrespectful, but it could have been something that would have at least let her know what she said was, you know, unwarranted, you know? And I think that, you know, so it's just something you have to continue to fill out. And the more you recognize that you're not an imposter, you are where you're supposed to be. You are qualified to be where you are. I think the more you start to really hone in on that, the easier it becomes to say, like, what are you talking? You know, it gives you the almost like the strength that you need to say things when you know you're being when you know you're being tested. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a lot of self work, because people are going to treat you how they want to treat you until they are taught accordingly. But I think we can't expect that of others until we have actually started doing that work ourselves. So until I can get my mind fully wrapped around where we are as an entity and what we have built and what we're doing, which I feel like I'm making progress in that direction. Because I think, you know, until I can get my mind fully wrapped around that, it's going to take time for me to start creating real expectation of how others will engage and vice versa. So it just takes time. But what would you say?
Well, I think it's self-worth too. Like you mentioned that. I think you can't expect others to give value to you. Like you have to give value to yourself when it comes to that. Mm-hmm. And even if you have those voices that go against you, right? Like they make you kind of doubt yourself and question yourself. You should still almost like retrain yourself. It's almost like rewiring your brain, right? Mm-hmm. To whatever you've been taught, and be like, no, I deserve to be here. I am valuable. I have worth. Yeah. And when you see yourself, that I think that will also kind of project to people, because sometimes when you're able to walk in that space of confidence and kind of like knowing your worth, people may take a second before they mistreat you, because they're like, oh no, not with her. Like, right. I won't try her. Right. Or, you know, and you may respectfully, like you said, have to check a few people. I strongly believe in checking people. Mm-hmm. And respectfully, right, with the right way, because you don't want to create conflict. Sometimes they don't. I like to believe, this is my naiveness, that some people are just not aware that they come out to you, disrespectfully. Like they just come out at you saying weird things. So letting them know is my way of doing them a service. I feel like sometimes, you know, if you don't tell them, they will never know. Mm-hmm. And if you tell them and they still continue, then that's just a choice they chose to make. And then at this point, you know, it's not like it was ignorance. It was like, I choose to be this way. Yeah. And then based on that knowledge, then I know how to treat you accordingly. Yeah. Right. So I do like to give people a benefit of the doubt. Like maybe you just didn't think this through. Right. Let me help you. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's how I think what you should do when you encounter things like this. Give people the benefit of the doubt, because a lot of people are also struggling. Even people that are disrespectful and sometimes they look like they have it all together, they don't. Mm-hmm. We don't know what's happening in their personal life. It's not an excuse. It's not excusing them, but it's like humanizing them. Yeah. You know, so I do try to humanize people and be like, all right, I'm going to let you know, because maybe this is happening to you. Yeah. But if you choose to continue to act that way, then we're going to have a different conversation, because then now you're blatantly choosing to disrespect me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a lot of that inner work, and that I don't think that work ever is over either.
Oh my God. I've been working like for 41 years, guys. Like, I don't know that that's ever going to be over. And I think once you even get to a point when you're like, oh, I feel like I got a good grasp, like be the mother of this, then you elevate, right? You have a new elevation coming up, a breakthrough, and now you kind of have to learn new things. So you're always learning. If you're always growing, then you're always learning.
I agree. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in for another episode of True Print for Life, and we'll be back with our next episode here soon.
Oh my God. And as we always say here in our podcast, it's bigger than you. Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.